welcome once again to the Sports Skillet live stream. We broadcast every Friday afternoon right here on our YouTube channel. So remember to subscribe so you're always notified when we're going live here on the Sports Skillet live stream, and also tune into our show every Sunday morning on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey. You can also contact us via our social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course chime in right here on YouTube. We want to hear what you've got to say. We respond to your comments, your questions, your feedback. Whatever is important to you is important to us. Like I said, we've got our social media channels. That's how we're communicating with all of you right now. We're not in the studio, but you can go to our website, sportsskilletradio.com. Our app is there, the Fox Sports 920 radio app, so you can get all the great Fox Sports Radio programming that's on the station, as well as our show. So you want to go in, download that, and also all the information about the show is there as well. So good information is on our website. You want to head over there, sportsskilletradio.com, and get the information there, as well as our social media channels. We want to engage with you, and we hope you guys want to engage with us as well. On the show today, we're going to have Mike Nebby on. We're going to be giving him a call shortly. So much stuff to go over, to talk to you about. We can't possibly cover it in 1 hour. That's why we do these live streams, so that we have a little bit longer to talk with you guys, to converse with you, to respond back to you. So, two big stories have broken this afternoon. One is the XFL is no longer. They've dismissed just about all of their personnel, except maybe a small, tiny skeleton crew that is working in Stamford, Connecticut. Outside of that, everybody else has been laid off. Sad to see. I like the XFL product. I think they had a good thing going. But as you can see, due to the coronavirus, the COVID ID and everything, it is just hard on just about every business. XFL has been impacted to the point where they couldn't keep everything going, had to shut down everything. It's going to be sad to see the XFL go. Like I said, I enjoyed their product. I think the NFL is going to be looking towards the XFL, seeing what worked, probably in the future adopting some of their ideas and implementing them. I think they were already going to do that. So they've already brought on board a few of the XFL players. So it was a league that was going to work, that was going to be successful. Unfortunately, in this coronavirus life that we're living right now, the XFL just couldn't meet their budget. They had to pay their players. They had to pay everybody else who was working in Stamford, Connecticut, the coaches, etc. And quite frankly, I don't know. This has not been announced. It was just a 10-minute conference call that the XFL did today. They didn't take any questions. It was just like, this is where we are, and unfortunately we've got to let everybody on this conference call go. And I think it was probably something along the lines of their broadcast partners, maybe Fox, ESPN, NBC, looking at it and saying, we're not getting any games, so we're not going to be paying you guys. Well, once they lost that revenue stream, now all of a sudden you're not getting people in the stands anymore because that's all been shut down. They're not selling merchandise. The stations aren't airing any of the games that you already played. I haven't seen one XFL game air during this coronavirus epidemic. So that wasn't going on. So now all of a sudden the broadcast partners aren't airing your games. You're not getting people in the stands. So people are not buying your merchandise, or if they are, it's slowed down to a trickle. So where is exactly your money coming from? And in an inaugural season where you're trying to build up the coaches, you're trying to build up the teams, you're trying to build up the players, you don't have that right now with the XFL because you've only had about half the season. You didn't have your big championship game. So where's the money coming from? And I think that's the crisis the XFL faced. I would love to see them come back for 2021, but if you're laying off all your personnel, I don't see that happening, because if you were planning on coming back, you wouldn't have laid off your personnel. They would still be working in some form or fashion. To lay off just about all your personnel, it doesn't look good for the XFL ever returning. It's a shame. It gave players another avenue to get to the NFL or to continue playing professional football. They had some great ideas, and I would like to see some of them implemented in the NFL. The 1 foot in bounds, I thought was a really good idea. They had a number of kickoff ideas. I like the fact that you had to run a play on offense instead of kicking an extra point. So a lot of the ideas that the XFL had, I think, could work out well in the NFL. I would like to see that go on. So sad to say, it looks like the end for the NFL. And finally, Vince had a football product that was working. We saw back, in the late 80s or early 90s or what have you, Vince started up the football, and that fell immediately on its face. But this had this product was working. It was sustainable, and if not for the coronavirus, we would still have the XFL in our lives, would have still had the XFL championship game, and it would have gone on, and it would have done some probably pretty good things. But unfortunately, XFL is gone. We would love to hear what you think. Comment on our social media pages. We put up a post earlier, so feel free to respond to that. We want to hear what you have to say as well. The other news that just broke recently is the fact that NBC is going to have their new Sunday Night Football crew in place down the line. It's not going to happen this coming season or probably next year, but down the line they will have Mike Tirico and Drew Brees. Again, we posted it on our social media pages, so we want to know what you have to say about that. What do you think of the Mike Tirico and Drew Brees pairing? Drew Brees spurned ESPN. He gave them salary demands, apparently, and they rebuffed him. So Drew Brees will not be on Monday Night Football. He will instead be joining NBC and be the analyst eventually down the line for Sunday Night Football. They're going to work him in slowly. Once he retires, and this is pending his retirement, whenever he decides to retire from the NFL, he's got the contract with NBC. So what the plan is to slowly transition him to Sunday Night Football. And the way they're going to do that is they're going to start him out as a studio host for Sunday Night Football in America. He'll be in studio doing that. And he'll also, I think, be an analyst on one of their college football games on Saturday. So that's the way they're going to integrate him into their lineup. It's going to be a slow process, so it's not going to be, he's not retiring immediately. And when he does retire, maybe at the end of this season, maybe 2 more seasons, who knows. But when he does retire, it will be a gradual process. He'll start out in studio and doing one of their college football games. And then once he gets his legs under him with that, they'll transition him to Sunday Night Football, probably when, of course, Chris Collinsworth, that's his replacement. He will be replacing Chris Collinsworth. So if you're Chris Collinsworth, you know the clock is ticking on your contract with NBC. So once Collinsworth's contract comes up, they'll probably say goodbye to Chris and move Drew Brees into Sunday Night Football. Of course, Mike Tirico will be taking over for Al Michaels when Al Michaels either decides to retire or his contract comes up for renewal. So that's kind of the big news, is that Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth are looking like they're pretty much on their way out. And eventually, could be a year from now, maybe 2 years, but eventually you will see Drew Brees team up with Mike Tirico on Sunday Night Football. And the reason that stations are doing this is because they see how much of a big moneymaker the NFL is on their station. Play-by-play, these live games are what's the big moneymaker for TV and radio right now. And that's why they're shelling out so much money and trying to put together the best broadcast crews possible so the viewers will be entertained and be more apt to tune in. We see what's going on with Monday Night Football, that ESPN is reworking their crew because we've seen that what they had last year obviously wasn't working. So they are getting rid of their Monday Night Football crew. So as for ESPN, they're going to replace Joe Tessitore and Booger McFarland. They're probably going to look internally. Steve Levy could be a candidate for the play-by-play position. Others to keep in mind: Adam Amin, Dave Pash, and Bob Wischusen. All pretty good names. I like Levy. I like Bob Wischusen. I think he would make a very good play-by-play announcer. Dave Pash also would be a good choice, but if I was to choose, I would go with either Steve Levy or Bob Wischusen. Bob Wischusen out of that group would probably be my number one choice. Anybody who listens to him knows he is rock solid. He is very good. And on the analyst side, you're looking at probably a former player or a guy who's very well spoken in that regard. ESPN will be, again, looking internally, and they've got some really good candidates. Some names that have been bandied about: Dan Orlovsky, a friend of our show; Louis Riddick, you can see him on different shows, and he also does work with the NFL Network. Louis Riddick, very knowledgeable. Brian Greasy, also Westwood One's Kurt Warner could be another good choice. Nate Burleson, probably another name that they're kicking around. But I think if you would pair up Bob Wischusen and Dan Orlovsky, that would be a rock-solid, slam dunk broadcast crew right there. If I'm casting a vote, I'm going Orlovsky and Wischusen. Bam! You've got your Monday Night Football crew. Everybody would be entertained. They would do a great job. The only question is, if Orlovsky is doing Monday Night Football, what would happen to his other commitments on ESPN and around the league. He does a lot of different commentary roles, a lot of different analyst roles. So, you want to see Dan Orlovsky on TV as much as you can. He has great opinions, extremely knowledgeable. We've had him on the show before. We hope to eventually get him on again, and we love having him on the show. So, Dan, if you're paying attention and watching us out there, you're more than welcome to come on the show whenever you like. Hope to get you on soon. But Orlovsky and Wischusen would be a rock-solid choice for Monday Night Football. And everything that I'm seeing on from the Post has been positive about Mike Tirico and Drew Brees teaming up for Sunday Night Football. I haven't seen anybody have any negative comments about that pairing. Ken Moskowitz, a friend of the show, we have him on the live stream, and Ken remarked that he loves the duo together, and he thinks they would be awesome. We also have one of my friends, Laura, chimes in. Drew is the best. She loves it. So, again, a lot of good feedback from that pairing when it takes place. Again, it's down the line because Drew hasn't even retired yet. Although this may be another indication that Drew Brees is going to retire after this season. We heard earlier in this offseason his head coach came out and said during a media briefing that, or an interview, that this would be Drew's last, something along the line referring to the fact that this would be Drew Brees' last year. Then that kind of created a firestorm, so he went back and said, I kind of misspoke on that. Drew Brees hasn't told me that this would indeed be his last year, but again, another indication. Sean Payton said it first. Now Drew Brees signing the contract with NBC, looking more towards his post-NFL life than what's going on right now within the NFL. So, again, could be another indication that this may be the last year we see Drew Brees. And what happens if Drew Brees doesn't have playoff success? What happens if Drew Brees doesn't wind up beating the new quarterback in the NFC? We're talking about Tom Brady. What happens if Tom Brady finishes ahead of Drew Brees this year? Maybe that spurs Drew Brees to kind of call it a career and move on to NBC and accelerate his learning curve and get into the studio for Sunday Night Football and begin that. So again, this could be an indication that we may only be getting a 1 year competition between Tom Brady and Drew Brees, and Tom Brady and Drew Brees versus the rest of the NFC quarterbacks. This may be the only year where those two quarterbacks are in the NFC together. So another indication that, when the NFL gets underway and they start playing games, that we may only get one season of Brees and Brady together, competing against each other in the NFC. So that's something to kind of keep your eye on going forward. Very interesting things going on, of course. Now, what happened over the past 24 hours is the fact that there was a trade that went down between the LA Rams and the Houston Texans. We want to get into that a little bit. Of course, the Rams traded wide receiver Brandon Cooks to the Houston Texans for a second-round pick. Now it looks like the Houston Texans will be without a first and a second rounder this year heading into the draft. So I don't know what's going on with Bill O'Brien, the GM. He is certainly not doing any favors for Bill O'Brien, the head coach. To me, it wasn't a good trade for the Houston Texans because you look at it and you see some of the guys that are now on the Houston Texans. You're trading for a wide receiver with concussions issues. He considered retirement in the past. He's also on a very expensive contract. You're looking at the wide receiver core for the Houston Texans now as it stands. You've got Will Fuller, good wide receiver, but he has issues staying healthy. Randall Cobb, Green Bay, the Packers moved on from him as he's been hurt a lot. Kenny Stills missed 3 games last season. And you're adding to that, as I just said, Brandon Cooks, who has concussion issues, and, who's a very good receiver. I wouldn't say he's great. I would say he's very good, but you're overpaying him. And in a draft that is going to be almost, people are saying this may be historically good for wide receivers. If you're going to draft one in the first round, you can get a wide receiver for 5 years because you're taking them with a first-round pick. Or even if you're, draft them in the second round or later, you get them for 4 years and you can franchise them or do something like that. Why are you going out right before the draft and spending money on a very good but not great wide receiver when you just traded one? Yes, you were having a contract issue with him, and that's probably why Bill O'Brien moved on. But you're bringing in another guy with a very heavy contract. And I just don't see why the Houston Texans are doing that. To me, it's just absolutely crazy. And you just traded for a very expensive running back in David Johnson. He also has a very expensive contract. So now you have 2 very expensive contracts that are going to weigh down your salary cap against 2 guys who are good, but are they game changers? You gave up DeAndre Hopkins, who is a game changer, who teams really have to pay attention to, double covered. I don't know with Brandon Cooks that you have to use your best cornerback on him to cover him. That's the difference between DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cooks. You can get by with your second best corner covering Brandon Cooks. You need to double cover DeAndre Hopkins, and you traded him. I mean, it just boggles my mind that the Houston Texans would do that. Now they're sitting out basically the first or second round because I don't believe they have a first or second round pick now due to Bill O'Brien, the GM. And I got to tell you, if I am the quarterback of the Houston Texans, I'm telling you, I am Deshaun Watson. If I am Deshaun Watson, I am absolutely enraged right now. And there is just about, to me, Deshaun Watson, there is absolutely no way. I won't say absolutely no way, but right now things got tougher to re-sign Deshaun Watson if you are the Houston Texans. Because now I'm looking at it. Will Fuller, I illustrated the wide receiver core, right? So Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb. Will Fuller, Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks. 3 are your top receivers, right? Would anybody be shocked if one or more of them went out, got injured during the course of the NFL season, missed multiple games, and you had 2 or all three of them on the sidelines in street clothes at the same time? Nobody would be shocked over that. So you could be missing all 3 of your wide receivers, 2 out of the 3. Nobody would be shocked over that. And you could be missing your running back. because he has an injury history as well. He's overpaid. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm going crazy right now, and I am looking probably for a way to get away from the Houston Texans, because Bill O'Brien may be a decent head coach, but he's not doing me any favors in terms of personnel. You're going down. You're not increasing your personnel. You're decreasing the talent on the roster. You can't tell me that Brandon Cooks you can't tell me that Brandon Cooks is a better wide receiver than the one you just traded. You just can't. The gap is wide between those two wide receivers, and you got rid of a better one to bring in and a very good wide receiver. It's just crazy what Bill O'Brien is doing. I feel for the Houston Texans fans, because I can't see the Houston Texans having any kind of a, if the guys are lucky enough to stay healthy, maybe they can put something together. But I just don't see, with the injury history that some of these guys have, I just don't see it. And if Sean Payton and Bill Belichick bailed on Brandon Cooks, two very knowledgeable, very good head coaches. Sean Payton is a very good offensive coach. And if those two guys bailed on Brandon Cooks, something scaflooey is going on there. And, again, that should tell you something right off the bat there. And I feel for, the Houston Texans and their fans. And, I just don't see it as a good trade for the Houston Texans. We also had, over the past 24 hours or so, Dana White announcing that he has canceled USC 249. Not going to happen. He says he received a telephone call from some very influential people that he should go ahead and cancel it. Well, you can probably guess who those influential people are. Probably looking at the president of Disney and the governor of California. They were going to have it, I believe, on tribal land in California. And I thought, it was a good idea. He tried to work things out to keep things going, to try and figure out a way to get this done. But obviously, the more he pushed, he couldn't figure out a way to get it going. So USC 249 canceled. USC is kind of shut down for the immediate future. I think it was probably good. The WWE has the Performance Center that they can bring in certain wrestlers to. They can bring in a skeleton crew to. They have that. USC doesn't. USC has to have a venue to hold their events at. So taking that into consideration, and Dana White not having a venue to hold his events at, unlike that of the WWE, probably a good idea in where we are with the coronavirus. I think it was probably a good idea for Dana White not to hold it, not to put anybody in harm's way, and to kind of shut it down and bow to Disney, ESPN, and the governor of California. We also have 58 prospects are going to be virtually participating in the NFL draft. That was also announced over the past 24 hours. Think that's a good idea. I think it'll be interesting how they're going to set up this virtual draft. They are going to run through it several times, make sure they got everything down to a science before they go live in a couple of weeks. I think this could be pretty fun, because instead of having the 58 draft prospects go up to the stage and chest bump Roger Goodell and hold Roger Goodell and whatever. I think it'll be interesting because the cameras will be at the house of these draft eligible prospects. You're probably talking all the guys that are due to be drafted in rounds 1 and 2 will have cameras in their homes. We're seeing it right now all over the sports landscape. You're seeing sports shows come back online, come back to TV. You're seeing it on Fox. You're seeing it a little bit on ESPN, and you're seeing the talking heads have cameras in their homes and getting that all set up so that they don't have to go to the studios. So NFL is going to put on a really good show. You can almost count on that. And I think having the cameras at the draft prospects' homes are going to create something that maybe we don't see that often, because the prospects are going to be with a limited amount of family and friends, obviously. They're not going to have the full family there, just their immediate family, because we are all on coronavirus lockdown as we speak. And it'll be fun to see, the family and where they go, and the moms and the dads and the brothers and the sisters that are at home with them, cheering them on. I think that'll be fun to watch from the house of the draft prospects, and you can see some background stuff like you can here. We got got the cabinet behind me, so you'll be able to see a little bit of that going on. So I think that'll make for a fun draft. You can see, maybe the mom's crying, and they'll pre-tape some interviews, I'm sure, with, the prospects that'll be going in the first or second round, get that done and out of the way. So I think that'll be a really good draft for the NFL, a new way of doing things, and then hopefully everything eases up and they're able to hold the draft in a city again next year. We'll have to wait and see on that, where we stand with the coronavirus at that point. But I think it'll make for an interesting draft when they do it virtually, and having the 58 prospects chime in there. They can cut to them, I guess, if they want to, and go to them and, get a live feed from them. So I think that'll make things pretty interesting going to that. We also saw within the past 24 hours, Trent Dilfer and Steinberg Sports created a video to a Tagovailoa working out, doing some drills. Again, limited personnel there, no more than 10 people. They adhered to all the rules and regulations that we're all living by with the coronavirus. They had it indoors and everything, just to show everybody that Tua is healthy and can run through these drills, and show them exactly where Tua stands. So hopefully that helps Tua out. Again, we're big fans of Steinberg Sports. They're friends of ours here on the show. So we hope Tua goes within the top couple of picks of the draft. I think he will. Could be a trade up from some team looking to get ahead of another team that could be drafting Tua. So I think Tua is going to go really high in the draft. I don't think injury concerns are going to be an issue for Tua. I think right now, here's the thing: if you can't look at what they did in the 70s, and when they were people drafted players in the 70s and early 80s, right? You didn't have social media in the 70s and early 80s. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have these modern conveniences that we now have. There was no FaceTime then. So here's the thing. You can go and you can see people, there were video cameras in the early 80s, but, you had game tape there. So you could look at that. You didn't have to bring, you didn't have all this stuff. So what I'm saying is that for all these guys that are complaining, look for these GMs, these front offices that are complaining. Instead of complaining, look for solutions, right? This is the world that we are living in. And instead of complaining, instead of saying, I can't do this, I need to do that, and I can't make a educated draft decision, you have a bunch of tape on these draft eligible players. You've seen Tua. He sent out videos. You can FaceTime Tua, I'm sure. You've met with him. You met with, you could call his agent. I mean, you have all the information you need. Just go out and make your decision. You don't need to necessarily bring him into the facilities or go to a pro day. And here's the thing, that people don't realize. And I heard this from Joel Klatt earlier today on one of the shows. The pro days are better for any other position other than quarterback. So you can running back, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, safety, corner, whatever position other than quarterback. That's the people you want to see on a pro day. That's where your guy, the people you send out there, your position coaches, they all want to see those guys. Because here's the thing. You've got tape on the quarterback. The quarterback is running in his shirt, in his shorts, plays that are already, he knows, that have been discussed already, that he's probably run through a bazillion times before. So the quarterback knows what plays he's going to run on pro day. He's just going out there and, he's done it several times. So he's just running plays that he knows and that he's done. The other guys, those are the guys that you want to get your hands on and see, because the position coaches will go for an offensive lineman or a tight end and they'll say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to run, for maybe a wide receiver, I want you to run a 15-yard out and have somebody throwing the ball. For a running back, he may say, I want to see you catching the ball. Here's the play. Go run it. And those guys don't know what the position coaches are going to ask them to do. Quarterbacks know it. They ran through it. It's muscle memory for them. So it's much more of an issue if a quarterback doesn't execute those plays than it would be to see a quarterback executing them. Whereas the running backs, the offensive linemen, whatever these guys, position coaches are going to ask them to do, it's spontaneous. They have no idea what they're going to be asked. So it's more crucial to see those guys than it is the quarterbacks. And here's the thing that you also want to consider. Johnny Manziel, Sam Bradford, DeMarcus Russell. Everybody raved about their pro days. Scouts loved them. Everybody was saying there couldn't have been any better pro days than the ones those guys had. Right? Well, where are those guys right about now? And at the same time, everybody said Teddy Bridgewater had an awful pro day. He did not have a good one. Well, where's Teddy Bridgewater now? He's a quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. So there you go. Other guys are out of the league or were injury prone or whatever. And so pro days don't mean as much for the quarterback as they do for the other members of the team. Scouts, if you can't look at film, if you can't talk to the guys and get a good feeling about their personalities, their quirks, talking to their coaches, former coaches, whatever, maybe high school coaches, friends, family, whatever. If you can't call them up on the phone and FaceTime them or interview them, then you're not doing your job as a scout. So I feel that having the pro days are kind of overrated. Scouts, if they're worth their money in salt, should be able, just by looking at the tapes, doing their due diligence. They don't need the pro day. So go out and make the best draft that you can possibly make. And the other thing coming up with the quarterbacks, we know that, there's still 2 quarterbacks that have yet to be signed. Cam Newton is one of them. And some of the teams may look at it as, we're going to and I'm going to say the Patriots may be doing this, is looking ahead to next year's draft, where you're going to have a very good quarterback coming out. And they may be saying, let's get through this NFL season best we can with what we have, and we'll see how it plays out. And then next year, if we're lucky enough, we'll put in our draft capital, maybe a player. We'll move up and we'll get one of the 2 quarterbacks coming out in next year's draft. So that could be a reason why some trades don't get made. Maybe why Love or another quarterback or 2 falls in the draft. So maybe Herbert falls in the draft, Love falls in the draft, and they may be looking for Trevor Lawrence for next season. And instead of drafting those 2 guys, they say, we're fine, we'll make do with what we have, and we'll go for Trevor Lawrence next season. Something to keep an eye on with the draft coming up. So that's one of the things that we are talking about right now. I'm going to see if I can make a call to Mike Nebbia and bring him onto the show. We're going to take a brief timeout. We're going to run a commercial, if I can get it up here. There we go. So we will be right back after this.
You're listening to the Sports Skillet Radio Show, cooking up all the hot takes. Jump in and join us at 609-919-9200. Download our app at sportsskilletradio.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching for Sports Skillet. And remember to show us some love. Like, follow, and share.
Remember the TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name? Never been there. But every time I walk into Wildflowers restaurant on Pennington Circle, I feel at home and that I belong. Friday night, I headed over to Wildflowers, and even though it was packed, I easily found a seat at the bar and got cozy with 17 TVs. Baseball, golf, entertainment TV, you name it, including all NFL games. The bartender Dave suggested I order the Buffalo Wing Sampler, and you could tell he was a fervent fan. But reviews on Wildflowers Inn Restaurant Facebook page demanded I tried the garbage truck pizza, and Kelly had just arrived and promised to help me dig in. Then it came. Garbage truck pizza does not live up to its name because it smells amazing and it tastes even better. Freshly sliced peppers and pepperoni, garlic, mushrooms, mozzarella, and meatballs all baked on this incredibly crunchy and warm double crust to hold it all together perfectly. Heaven, especially with one of their 23 beers on tap. I'm a believer. Go to wildflowersinrestaurant.com for more info or just come in. They are conveniently located on the Pennington Circle, right near I-95. I promise you, they will welcome you warmly, feed you well, and perhaps soon even know your name.
You're listening to the Sports Skillet Radio Show, cooking up all the hot takes. Jump in and join us at 609-919-9200. Download our app at sportsskilletradio.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube by searching for Sports Skillet. And remember to show us some love. Make sure you like, follow, and share.
And we we are back here on the Sports Skillet live stream. We do this every Friday, so you want to be sure and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our live stream every Friday. Reminder to tune in to our show on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. And also like, follow, and share on our social media sites, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. We post stuff. We interact with you. And go to our website, sportsskilletradio.com. Download the app. So if you can't pick up 920 The Jersey, Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey on your radio, you can download the app, listen to wherever you are Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. You can also see all the great content that we have on the website as well and interact with us. We want to hear your opinions, your views on everything in the world of sports. What are you doing during this coronavirus epidemic? How are you helping out? What are you doing while you're in your house, kind of isolated from going to work and doing some of your normal activities? And also, the other thing I want to bring up too is if you have a local establishment, a local business, we want to encourage you to go to it, to order out, to make sure you spend a little bit of money on them to keep them going. We have a bunch of them that we like, of course, Wildflowers, Frickin' Tavern. There's some other ones. Shout them out to us. I'll mention them during the show that we do on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey or right here on the live stream. Shout them out. We want to bring attention to them. If you like them and you're patronizing them during this pandemic, we will shout them out as well and give them some notoriety because we want to make sure that they stay in business. So if you have a restaurant or business that you're ordering from, let us know. We will shout them out. We will do what we can to keep them going. And again, all our best to you and your family during this Easter weekend. We hope, however you celebrate, and it's Passover as well. So we want to say, however you choose to celebrate, we hope you have a good celebration, that everybody is healthy and staying safe, and hopefully everything goes well for you this holiday weekend. So at this point, we're going to give Mike Nebbia a call. Hopefully he's ready to join us. Let's give Mike a call here. See if he will pop up. Hi, there's the Skype music. So we will give Mike a call.
Hello.
Hey, Mike. There's Mike. How are you doing today?
Still hanging in there. This quarantine is driving me mad.
Oh, I hear you. How's your family holding up?
They're doing all right. Mom turned 60 on Wednesday.
All right. Happy birthday, Margie. Love seeing that. So, had a couple of big stories break over the past 24 hours or so. XFL is shut down. They look like they will no longer be in business. That just broke a few hours ago. What are your thoughts on the XFL shutting down?
It surprised me. They had a very good product. They put teams in non-traditional NFL markets, especially in St. Louis, where they were abandoned by the NFL.
Yep.
And the Battlehawks are doing pretty good. They were, 4-1 on the season before coronavirus before this outbreak knows its way where it didn't belong.
Exactly.
And I'd love to see the XFL come back, either 2021 or 2022.
I would love it too. I thought they had a good product on the field. The NFL will be adopting down the road, I think, some of their ideas. I thought were very good. They already brought in some of the former XFL players, so I think the XFL had a good product. It was just because of this coronavirus that they had to close up shop because they couldn't afford to pay everybody anymore. You know?
Coronavirus knows its way where it didn't belong. It did not belong in the sports world, and I blame Rudy Gobert for all this madness. If he didn't touch the microphones during a press conference, we wouldn't be in this mess with coronavirus edging its way into the sports world.
Well, I think it was more than Gobert, but when we would still be where we are now. But yeah, his press conference that he did that was definitely not a good message to send out. We've learned that over the course of the past couple of months, but definitely Rudy Gobert doing that sent the wrong message. I know he eventually apologized for it, but now we see just how bad it is. So, yeah, definitely Rudy Gobert sent the wrong message when he did that. Absolutely.
And he screwed up the entire sports world by doing so.
Just about, you know. Of course, we saw Drew Brees announce that he will be part of the new Sunday night football crew down the line. Not this year, probably not next year, but maybe the year after, depending upon when he retires from the NFL. He'll be paired eventually with Mike Tirico, and those guys will be taking over for Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football eventually. I think they would make a very good tag team on Sunday Night Football. What do you think?
I'm looking forward to that pairing. I have gotten used to Al Michaels calling Sunday Night Football, and even Monday Night Football when I was back in grade school on ABC. But I am looking forward to Tirico and Breeze calling Sunday Night Football on NBC probably as soon as 2021, because like you said earlier, Breeze has been giving indications that he may be retiring either after this season or next season, depending on how the chips fall. What they're at NBC and over in New Orleans with the Saints.
And I wanted
to depends on whether or not he can beat the new quarterback on the block in the NFC and Tom Brady.
That's true, and Tom Brady obviously will be competition for Drew Brees for at least one season, if not more than that. We had a trade go down earlier last night into today. Rams traded Brandon Cooks to the Houston Texans. I can't believe how Bill O'Brien is destroying the Houston Texans. What do you think?
He's a good coach, but not such a good GM. As a GM, you have to figure out what trade is the best for your team. What can you do to better your team? Bill O'Brien is just putting the Texans in reverse rebuild. He's putting the Texans in win now mode, and that's not the best route for the Texans going forward. If I'm Deshaun Watson here, I'm looking at this team, I'm looking at Bill O'Brien, I'd be storming into Bill O'Brien's office right now and demanding a trade.
I couldn't
Because,
agree.
quite frankly, I will have had enough of Bill O'Brien's incompetent buffoonery.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think Bill O'Brien, the GM, is absolutely screwing over Bill O'Brien, the head coach, and I think that comes from ownership. They gave him too much power. They needed to get a good GM in there, and handing it over to Bill O'Brien, it was not the right decision there.
It was not the right decision at all. Bill O'Brien, the coach, should be separate from Bill O'Brien, the GM, but unfortunately, he has failed to separate the coach side of him from the GM side of him. He's turned into a will pond.
Hey, and that was a good transition because I wanted to ask you something about this. There was an interesting article written by Joel Sherman in the New York Post. And in it, he said that the Mets might be the biggest losers if they don't play the 2020 season, if they punt on this baseball season. Now, I know that they're trying. And after we get through this, I have another question for you based on the Mets as well. But if they don't play this 2020 season, he said that the Mets could be the biggest loser in all of baseball throughout this. And I'll explain to you why. Michael Conforto, Steven Matz, and Noah Syndergaard all will be free agents after next season, those three. We know that the Wilpons will not, under any circumstances, shell out big money for a free agent, be it their own or somebody else's. They're just not going to do it. So after next season, say goodbye to Conforto, Steven Matz, and Noah Syndergaard. It's just not happening. So Mets are now shrinking time with those guys. And on top of that, not only will they lose them, but because all of baseball knows that the Mets aren't going to pay big money to keep them. So that shrinks what they could get in return for those guys in this offseason, or if they wanted to try to play with those guys next season, you're not going to get a big return on those guys because all of baseball knows they can sign them at free agents. Syndergaard is already going to miss this season one way or the other because of his surgery. So the Mets may have missed their best window to trade Syndergaard and recoup some controllable inventory. They lost in the Cano, Diaz, and Stroman deals. And what was it here? And so Rick Porcello and Michael Wacha, free agents. The Mets rotation to begin 2020 is Jacob deGrom and Matz. And, that's, and deGrom turns 32 in June. Around
the same week that I turned 26.
Yeah. So again, big season for the Mets to try and get this season going. The Mets pushed for it because after this season, they could be losing, big names on their team. They already traded key prospects like Kelenic, Justin Dunn, Anthony Kay, and Simeon Woods Richardson for Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz, and Marcus Stroman. So there you go.
I was looking forward to this being Diaz's bounce back year, Cano's bounce back year, after injury-plagued and mediocre 2019 seasons.
So Jeff is walking over to me. He has a big smile on his face. I think you wanted to add something, Jeff?
I just wanted to announce yet another idea from Major League Baseball. Maybe get Mike Nibbia's opinion on this. But Major League Baseball has put forth another idea for getting their season restarted. This from Bob Nightingale.
Yep.
So USA Today.
That's what I was going to bring up next. Yep. Go for it, Jeff.
Yep. Major League Baseball obviously considering radical realignment now. And this, as long as they, and I posted this on Facebook, as long as they keep the rules intact of the game, I could probably go for this idea over the just moving all the teams to Arizona. This I could probably get behind because it's a little different. It's a little spice for the season, but it does keep things intact. You still have 3 divisions going on, but you would have teams playing in Florida, and you would have teams that normally have their spring training in Florida staying in Florida. You would have teams that normally train in Arizona staying in Arizona. They would have their spring training again, and then they would kick off their season. The divisions would be realigned based on geography of the spring training homes. So the Grapefruit League, as we all know, because we're all familiar with the Grapefruit League, obviously, but the Grapefruit League would be split into 3 divisions, the North, the South, and the East. So the North would have the New York Yankees, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Detroit Tigers, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. That's an interesting division right there, to put the Yankees and the Phillies in the same division together. Obviously, you don't expect much, out of the Tigers or Pirates, but that would be an interesting division to have the Yankees and the Phillies battling it out in the North. The South, for those I said, would include the Boston Red Sox. So the Yankees would lose the Red Sox as a rival, but gain the Phillies. The Red Sox would be paired with the Twins, the Braves. So the Phillies would lose the Atlanta Braves, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Baltimore Orioles. So that would bode well, obviously, for Minnesota. Obviously, Atlanta would obviously have a good shot, in that division, and certainly Tampa. When you look at it. So that would be an interesting division when you look at pairing those teams together. In the East, you would have the Washington Nationals. You would have the Houston Astros. How about those two teams who just played in the World Series, being division rivals now? And you know that there's no love lost between those two teams based upon all the stuff that's going on with the Astros. So they would be obviously division rivals. You would have the Mets in that division, along with them. So the Mets would be paired with the team that they came in with back in the early 60s with the Astros. The Cardinals would be in that division along with the Marlins. So sort of a retro division when you look at it, with the Astros, the Mets, the Cardinals, add in the Marlins, and add in the Nationals. So an interesting grapefruit league right there that they would come up with. And then the Cactus League out in Arizona, just to go over that, would be the Cubs, the San Francisco Giants, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Colorado Rockies, and the Oakland A's. So that would be interesting for the Cubbies and the Giants, obviously, going out there and playing there. You would only have the Oakland Athletics from the American League in that division. In the West, you would have the Dodgers, the White Sox, the Reds, the Indians, and the Angels. So you would have the Angels and Dodgers, obviously, as rivals out West in that division. Plus, you'd have the Reds, you'd have the Indians, mix in the White Sox out there in the West division. And then up in the Northwestern division, you would have Milwaukee, you would have San Diego, you would have Seattle, you would have Texas, and you would have the Kansas City Royals. So that again, another interesting division, obviously, with the Brewers being a good team, and of course the Kansas City Royals trying to rebuild. So that would be more of a rebuilding type division out there with the Padres, the Mariners, the Rangers, and the Royals. A quote from Tony La Russa in the article: "When you're trying to get really creative, why say no now?" So I think
this is one of the things, and Mike, feel free to chime in here. This is one of the things that I've been saying about sports for this year. With the NBA, with the NHL, with Major League Baseball, maybe to an extent if football gets pushed back at all. Be creative. Throw some things against the wall. You can go back to the way things were at the beginning of next season. But for this season, being it's abbreviated, you have the opportunity now to do some crazy things that may be unheard of, to see how they go, and maybe you come up.
Just like what I've been seeing with NASCAR, they're open to trying midweek races. They're open to trying double headers at some tracks. This has been one whacked out 2020 sports-wise, and we're only 4 months in. So exactly. I'm liking this proposal by MLB. Of course, the Yankees get the easier division to play in because they're the Yankees.
Well, I think the Phillies are going to be pretty good, but and we don't know what state the Yankees pitching staff is going to be in. They have, their right fielders are hurt quite a bit, so Yankees have some things to kind of work through. Phillies are going to be coming in relatively healthy, although their pitching staff is kind of, the back end is kind of suspect a little bit. I will say that, but I don't know that you're going to get too much competition from the Tigers and the Pirates.
And Blue Jays.
And Blue Jays. I don't know how big a competition they are. So essentially, it would be a two-team race in that division. And yeah, the Mets having to go up against the Nationals
and the cheating Astros.
And the Astros. But again, we don't know how much the cheating scandal affects the Houston Astros going forward, because now that there's going to be more scrutiny, more eyes upon them once they start playing again, not being able to cheat, we don't know how that will affect some of these batters. What happens if some of their better hitters drop 20, 30 points in batting average? Jose Altuve, goes from a hitter who, I don't know, he's hitting 320 or something like that, because there's no cheating going on and he's not being alerted to any pitches anymore. What happens if he drops down to 270?
270 to 280.
Exactly.
And I heard that tape that Gary Cohen threw in one of those MLB simulated game broadcasts that they did on SNY.
Exactly. So we don't, that's one of my things. We don't know how much they're going to be affected. Marlins are going to be the Marlins, true, but the Cardinals are going to be a decent team.
The Cardinals going to be a good team. The
Cardinals going to be a good team.
Yeah. So the Mets would definitely have more competition in the revamped Eastern Division. But and the other thing too that would come with this that Jeff didn't mention is throughout all the teams, all the leagues, all the teams, what have you, will be the designated hitter role in effect.
Oh, that makes me happy. That doesn't appease Jay very much, but I like it.
Designated hitter in the NL.
So that would be one of the things that...
If only you guys could see my reaction right now.
I can see you rubbing your hands.
Yeah.
Well, just think about the TV as well. I mean, TV, it's a huge boom for TV because you could have games starting potentially 11 a.m. in Florida and still have games going late into the night in Arizona. So that would be a good thing also for baseball, is to be able to have games going throughout the day as well as double headers and so forth. So there's a lot.
Yeah, close to 162.
Plus, they can utilize 3 Major League Baseball stadiums if they go to Florida and Arizona playing. You have 3 Major League Baseball stadiums that they can then utilize as well.
Marlins
in
Park,
Tampa and Miami, and of course Chase Field in Arizona. So you would still be able to utilize some Major League Baseball parks in Florida and Arizona. So that's also a boon against. That's also a boon for this plan, which is another reason why I could be going for this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, outside of the designated...
And I love the DH. So
I'm not a fan of it, but considering who is the Phillies manager, that could play into the hands of the Phillies.
Especially going against the Yankees.
Especially going against... See, now you
got inside info on the Yankees. And the Cubs, because he used to play for the Cubs.
Yes. So there you go. Some intrigue in that division where you would have Girardi going head-to-head to try and beat the New York Yankees.
I don't know if there would still be interleague play, though.
No, there probably wouldn't. No, there would be no interleague play between the divisions.
No, you would go to Arizona. You would be staying in Florida, and you'd be staying in
Arizona. And then
you'd have the World Series between Arizona and Florida.
Exactly. So the only time, and that would be down the road. You're talking now
late November, something like that.
Yeah, you're talking about probably early November, when hopefully some of these things involving the coronavirus have
if they don't, they could play in one of those parks. They could play the World Series in either Chase Field, or they could play it in Miami, or they could play in Tampa.
Play it in Miami. They're not going to get a World Series with their Marlins anyway.
Exactly. Mike
he's
says
not
playing in
for
Miami, they're not
12
getting a World Series there. So, yeah.
Only
So,
World Series they'll get for another 10, 12 years.
yeah. So, I mean, there you go. And at least in the beginning, you're not going to have any fans in the stands. So even if some of these protocols are still in place and people are reluctant, we're talking in October or early November, if people are reluctant to go to the stadium and sit there, at least then when you have your World Series, you're not having people, you're only having two teams in there. You're not having all this interleague play like
Correct.
You're only having two teams and whatever else in the stadium. So, that's limited contact there. So you could say we're having the World Series, we're, still abiding by social distancing and that type of thing. And if it's a whole season of nobody in the stands, then so be it. And that's one of the things that I say that may be the rule of thumb until 2021 is that when sports slowly trickle back, be it NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, that until 2021, there is no people sitting in the stands. It's going to look awkward. It may feel a bit differently. You look at the WWE, it does look and feel a little bit different, but if that's what we have to do until 2021, then so be it. And we get used to watching it. I'm getting used to watching.
And the NHL is considering a playoff with every single team involved just to get back on their feet.
Yeah. I mean, and you do that and you figure out a way, and that's the thing. That's what I said. You put the best minds in it. You listen to what the medical community is telling us. When this coronavirus starts easing up, because right now, here in New Jersey, if you're watching us, things are contracting still. Parks are being shut down. We're being told you have to wear a mask to go to the stores. Stores are being told that you can only operate at 50% capacity, so they're restricting access. You're having lines outside the stores when you go there, so things are still contracting here in Jersey. Maybe different where you're watching this live stream, but for the moment they're still contracting. But who knows what happens in October, early November, where we stand there. But again, even if you can't have fans in the stands, it will look different, feel different. But that's why you put your best minds to figure out something that works with ownership and players, and then you go with it, and you make a decision, and then you go with it, and this is what we're going to do. And I like that realignment. I think it would create a lot of intrigue, a lot of drama. Some teams may not like it, but you know what? For one season and one season only, you throw it up against the wall, you see how the fans respond to it, and you take things from there. Personally, like you and Jeff said, Mike, I think the one thing that would come out of this is if you implement the DH, I don't think that goes away. I think that, once the DH comes to all of baseball, then it's not going anywhere. So if that happens with this...
And there are these pitchers that can hit. Guys like Syndergaard, guys like DeGrom, guys in the vein of Dontrell Willis from when I was in grade school. Those guys can hit.
Oh, yeah. There are certainly some pitchers that can hit. I think that the pitchers hitting would be only in an extreme circumstance should the DH come. But you have pitchers that can pinch hit or that can come up and hit pretty well. I know they would be disappointed because they would not get any more at bats. But hey, if it keeps them in the game maybe a little bit longer or what have you, maybe that's a good thing. And you try it
more complete games, and so be it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're in agreement here that that proposal seems to be pretty good. Me personally, other than the DH, because I think it takes away from some of the strategy, but that's just my opinion there. Also, with no fans in the stands, this has come up. I wanted to talk about it with you real quick. We brought up the Houston Astros and everything. If baseball is not played for whatever reason this season, then their manager, A.J. Hinch, who was involved in the cheating scandal, dismissed. He was suspended for the 2020 season. If there is, for whatever reason, no baseball this year, is he actually being punished because it was tied to a season and not to, and they didn't say 182 games, 162 games. They tied it to a season and not the amount of games. So technically, he could come back next season because he would have served his suspension. But now all of a sudden, with the no baseball, just like, it wouldn't really be suspension really. And with no fans in the stands, a lot of fans wanted to vent their anger and frustration and make signs and do whatever to the players on the Astros. They wouldn't get that opportunity if there's no fans in the stands. So my question is, would the Astros have actually suffered if baseball is not played or if there's no fans in the stands?
In essence, no. Hinch and the Astros would have gotten away with murder.
I tend to agree with you. I think the suspension should have been on when he was suspended. The two managers should have been tied to a suspension of 162 games and not the 2020 season. Of course, at the time, they couldn't have anticipated.
They couldn't have predicted coronavirus. Yeah. They couldn't have predicted They couldn't have predicted the virus coming here from Europe. They couldn't have predicted someone eating an infected bat in China.
Exactly. So, again, it's one of those things that they really couldn't have predicted. So they said, okay, you're suspended for the 2020 season, and then now maybe there's baseball, maybe not. But it's encouraging that they're putting out, all the leagues are kind of trying to figure out how we can get our seasons in.
How are we going to get our seasons in?
Yep.
How are we going to beat this stupid virus and get back to normalcy?
Exactly. And so I see NASCAR is doing this virtual racing, I believe, Mike.
Yes, they're working with iRacing to get drivers from the past and present, as well as iRacing professionals, to come together on virtual replicas of the tracks they were supposed to be at that week. And they're putting these races on the Fox Sports family of networks. And they've actually been drawing pretty well.
That's awesome. See, that's another thing that may go on and may help out NASCAR in the future. Maybe they do a little more of this, Maybe during off time with NASCAR, they bring this in and, and they start doing a little bit more of this. What do you think?
I think this is a novel idea. Why didn't IndyCar think of this when they canceled their races through the month of April?
I don't know. I think it's a great idea. I think they should do more of this. I think it would bring more fans in there because here's the thing. Esports is taking off like you wouldn't believe. Philly is building an arena down in the
with the Overwatch League, with the Philadelphia Fusion.
Yeah. And they're building a whole arena dedicated to esports down there. So I think
New York's doing the same thing with the New York Excelsior, my Overwatch League team, by the way.
There you go. And I think leagues should be doing more of this. I think right now, if you're Major League Baseball or the NFL or hockey or something like that, I think you could design something that would create interest. Like, you're not playing the actual games, but if I got to maybe sit and watch Bryce Harper play against Noah Syndergaard or, something like that,
Or Chipper Jones play against, I don't know, Barry Bonds.
Yeah. So I think it would be really cool.
Or if this were hockey, it would be Claude Giroux playing against Nick Foligno.
Yeah, something like that, and I think it could create, a lot of interest. Also, trying to create interest, just to throw this out there, there's going to be a game of horse being televised. On
ESPN Sunday night.
Yep. And they've got
Leslie, Chauncey Billups are going to be a part of it.
Yep.
We'll have Trae Young. No Steph Curry, though.
No Steph Curry. Tamika Catchings versus Mike Conley. Zach LaVine versus Paul Pierce. Chris Paul. Chris Paul versus Ali Quigley. And Trae Young versus Chauncey Billups. So those are the opening round matchups.
Yeah, advantage is Chauncey Billups in the Trae Young matchup. He's got the experience. Trae Young is a little iffy at these trick shots. So I'm giving the advantage to Chauncey Billups.
Yeah, I would have to. I'm going to go with Trae Young. I think he's going to come out on top in this one. I think Trae Young is going to come out on top. But that was a pretty good pick too. And I think each person will be playing from
their homes.
From their homes, and the start of each game will determine who shoots first. With the more senior player calling heads or tails. Players must describe each shot attempt, specifying the type of score they intend to make before taking a shot, such as a bank shot or a swish. Dunking is prohibited during the game. First player in each game to accumulate the letters HORSE after failing to match 5 shots is eliminated. So
this should be pretty fun.
I think that'll be really cool. I think it'll get some viewers going, and we'll see what happens.
Attracted a lot of attention, that's for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see what ratings they get, and maybe they'll do another round after this. So, we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be really fun to watch and see how it goes. So. Everybody will be tuning into that. So, Mike, as we start wrapping up our live stream here, any final words for everybody out there?
Well, you did ask for the viewers or listeners to pitch their local establishments. I'd like to pitch a local establishment that I frequent. It's the Americana Kitchen and Bar. Constantine Katsifis is the owner proprietor. And I'd like to point out that I've already pitched the idea of going there once this whole coronavirus crud is over with, to support his business and thank him for all that he's done over the years and all that he's done to help us through this coronavirus crisis.
Absolutely.
So, Constantine, if you're listening to this, I just want to say thank you for all you've done over the years, all you've done to help us through this crisis, and can't wait to get back through the doors of the Americana.
Absolutely.
We'll beat this thing. We'll beat this thing together.
Absolutely. Everybody's just got to wait here to what the health department is saying, what the government is saying, what the governor is putting out there, and that's to make sure you wash your hands, you practice social distancing, you wear a mask now if you're going to the store, and that's pretty much, and you stay sequestered pretty much as much as you can. If you want to go for a walk, that's fine, but parks have kind of been shut down, at least here in Jersey. So just adhere to what the health community is putting out there, and like Mike said, we're going to be able to beat this, get through it, and things may not look the same as they were on the other side, but I think we'll be in a better situation once we get through this. I think that's
we will beat this together, and we will come back stronger than ever.
Absolutely, Mike.
As a nation.
Absolutely. And tell your mom, Margie, we all wish her a very happy birthday. And we hope you all stay safe and healthy.
Thank you very much, Jay.
All right. Have a good weekend, Mike. And we will talk to you next week.
I'll catch you next week.
All right. Stay safe and healthy.
You too, Jay. Later.
Later. And, of course, that was Mike Nebbia. We have him on the show every week. Gives us good insights and everything. Big Mets fan. Big Giants fan. Draft coming up, so I'm sure we'll be talking more about that as we go forward. We'll have more draft talk on the way in the upcoming weeks as, of course, that's drawing closer. If you have a favorite team out there, we want to hear who you want your team to draft. Do you have a personal favorite coming out of college that you hope your team drafts? We want to hear about it. We'll be talking more about the draft as we get closer to it. No doubt about it. Maybe be doing a few more live streams coming up. So again, good conversation about all the things that transpired. Again, no more XFL is what it looks like. Big trade between the Rams and the Houston Texans. I think the Houston Texans are getting significantly worse, but now the Rams have a $22 million cap hit because of the trade. So neither one of this comes out looking really good. Lots of things going on. USC shuts down finally. So we'll be talking about WrestleMania on the show Sunday morning at 11 a.m. So you want to tune in then. Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey and SportsSkilletRadio.com. Head over to our website. Just said it, SportsSkilletRadio.com. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you know whenever we go live. Sometimes because of the technical difficulty, we come on a little later than what we want, but we will come on. We will update you if there's any big stories going on. So again, like, follow, and share on our social media sites, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And please stay safe, stay healthy. Listen to what the medical community is telling you, what your governmental leadership is telling you. Don't try to bend the rules. I said this during, and I'll give you a heads up, I said this during the show Sunday, and I'm sticking by it, is that the other day I saw on one of the news, kids going to a local park and playing soccer. I couldn't be more upset with the parents, because the kids were probably pushing, nudging the, hey, let's go to the park, let's, so-and-so is going there, can we, and I know they were pushing them, and maybe the parents wanted to get out as well, but be a freaking parent and say no, say that no, we got to quarantine ourselves for a little bit longer. If you want to go for a walk, that's fine, but don't play soccer in a park where the kid could be a carrier of the coronavirus, bring it home, infect an elderly member of the family. Now they got it. Now we all have to suffer because you as a parent were being an idiot. So listen to what your government is saying. Listen to what the medical is communicating to you. Hunker down for a little bit longer. Wear masks if you're going to the store. Wash your hands. Do what's necessary, and we can get through this sooner. If you're going to be an idiot and you're going to play in the park with a bunch of kids and bring the coronavirus home, you know what? You've been told how long, how many times, for how long now that you're not supposed to do this. No sympathy for you, but I do have sympathy from the person that you passed the coronavirus on to. I do have sympathy for them because they were probably doing what they were supposed to do, and you were being the moronic idiot that went to the park with your kids and played a soccer game. You've been told time and again, hunker down and wait for a little bit longer. We'll get through this. The more people that do it, the quicker we get through it, and the quicker we get back to some sort of sense of normalcy. And maybe jobs start opening up again. But if you're going to go to the park with your kid and playing a soccer game, then you know what? You're just being stupid. You're delaying this whole thing for everyone. So if I was walking back there, I would have had it out with one of the parents. And the parents are standing side by side with each other, having a conversation as well. So, they're not wearing masks out there. So, just unbelievable, the idiocy of some of these people. Just stay in your house. Be a parent. Tell your kids, no, we can't go to the park until this thing is over. That's all, and wash your hands and listen to what your elected officials and the health community is telling you. The quicker we get through it, the better. I think that's what we all want. So don't be an idiot. Listen to what they say, and hopefully you and your family and your friends are doing that, and you all have a very happy, a very healthy, and a very safe Easter. And we all see you back here on the Sports Skillet live stream and on Fox Sports Radio 920 The Jersey, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Until then, everyone, have a great weekend, and we will see you again. Who knows? I may do another live stream coming up. So there you go. Just tune in, subscribe, so when we go live, you are there. Have a great weekend, everybody.